Welcome back to WCS EU Challenger Season 2. I'm your now host, Jeff In Control Robinson, but I'm not alone. I couldn't do this alone, in fact. I'm joined by Mr. Kevin Rotterdam Vanderkoy.
Not a host.
Not a host.
Just
stay over there, okay? I'm over here doing my thing. You stay over there. But we've had a doozy of a day so far, some pretty shocking results. If you guys want to look at what's happened so far, you can, of course, watch this VOD afterwards as well. We're 2 matches in, and we're going into our 3rd match here. 0-2 for ShoWTimE versus Soul. Soul with a shocking result, but that's not all. Bly 2-0's Lambo, and now we're heading into the subhuman match, or the under match, between ShoWTimE and Lambo, which in a lot of other situations could be your semi-final. It could be your, at least the winner match or something. Roddy, this is crazy.
I would have predicted this to be the winner match, actually. Yeah. Especially, you already said a little bit Lambo's appearance at Austin. I mean, that was the best tournament run I think he's ever had when it comes to a big foreign event. Yeah. ShoWTimE still being ShoWTimE, always on top of that European ladder. I thought that this was going to be our winners match, but...
And I'll tell you, to give you guys a little bit of flavor on this too, it's been a bit of a trip up from ShoWTimE for a while now. Actually, WCS Austin was not a very good showing from him. I'm a big fan of ShoWTimE. I'm sure a lot of you are as well. So I've been kind of following his social media, and he's been talking about it. He's been saying, I don't want to call it depressing because that's a little bit too strong of a word, but very like emotionally disgruntled and upset stuff. He says he's been putting in the work. He had a great showing in our first WCS stop, but then after that, it's been kind of downhill, Roddy.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's that inconsistency that we're not used from him, because in the past he was the opposite of inconsistent. Yeah. He was just always the best pros, and he would lose a series against a nerd show every now and then, but not too many. Yeah, exactly, but not too many. And these days it's either hit or miss. Even last year, you know, he had a rough year, and then suddenly he won Challenger for Montreal, and people are like, the dream is alive if you can just win Montreal, but then he went out rather early again. So it's truly hit or miss. I think both players are ready, so I'm just gonna let them know that we are ready as well. It seems like our first map is going to be played on Catalyst. No, Catalyst is that one map, Jeff, that all the pro gamers just love. Every matchup, they're always like, let's start on Catalyst.
You'll see this, I mean, I think we've seen this in every best of 3 at the very least, and certainly in best of 5s. As we get later into the tournament, you'll see more of it. ShoWTimE versus Lambo on Catalyst to kick off this best of 3. One of these two guys is not going to qualify for WCS Valencia in just a couple weeks, which is absolutely crazy.
It's not even going to make it into the top 8, Jeff.
Not even the top 8.
Maybe both won't make it into the top 8, but we're not there yet.
We'll see.
As you guys see, we have hopped in into Catalyst over here on the right bottom side. I tried to go fuse 2 words together there, didn't really work out. Over here on the right bottom side, we're looking at the main base of our German Protoss. It is ShoWTimE.
And in the top left, his opponent, also in an equally sticky situation from Germany. It's the Red Zerg Lambo. Now, it's not over for either one of them. It's just kind of this is the like sudden death pit fighter match where it's like, all right, both you guys are incredible StarCraft 2 players, especially in the foreign scene. One of you can make it out alive. Here's a fork. Get in there. See what you can do.
Imagine if Bly takes out Soul as well. If he got Soul versus one of these guys as the decide this match. Bly is so funny because all these pros are always happy when they get Bly in their group because they're always full of confidence that they can take out Bly. And then Bly just shows up with the builds that we have seen before, but he just keeps making it work. Bly is truly a unique case. I want somebody to make a movie about the life of Bly one day.
Yeah.
Just tell us about
one of the nicest guys you can encounter at an event. He's really, really friendly, very funny. But as Kevin said, the results just kind of keep coming in, but it is that European scene that's so funny because they're like, oh, I got Bly. I mean, you know, just got to guard against the cheese. But then the kind of cheese that shows up, they're like, I haven't seen this kind of cheese in 20 years. It's like, yeah, well, here it is. Good luck.
I didn't even know they made cheese like this.
Oh, my God. I didn't know you were going to still attack. He's like, it's Bly.
I must say, I really like the way that Bly played on Acid Plant, actually, in the previous game with the roaches, and he's distracting so much with the Spire.
It's cheesy, but it's skilled cheesy, right? It's not like he won because any one of those ideas was just completely, by itself, foreign to the concept of what can show up for Lambo. It's that they worked in unison, right? The Mutas, after all those roaches and the Nidus Worm, is what's so unpredictable there.
What are you expecting coming out of Lambo on this map, Catalyst versus ShoWTimE? Do you think he's going to be just a rather defensive Zerg, or do you think there's a possibility of him making a whole bunch of Queens, Roaches, Lings, and just running to the other side of the map and trying to win?
You know, one of the nicknames for ShoWTimE amongst his peers in that European scene is the Wall. They just kind of know him as the defender. So I feel like it'd be a huge mistake for Lambo to come off that weird Bly series and just be like, well, I'm going to cheese ShoWTimE now, because I think he's one of the worst guys to do it to. Even now, where he's kind of struggling to find results, he's still one of the best defenders in all of Europe.
And I still think he's very good in this matchup in particular as well. I don't think his Protoss with Zerg has fallen off at all. I don't think there's too many series that he's dropping left, right, and center against Zergs. And every now and then we have that privilege, I would almost say, to watch ShoWTimE go up against Sero. And those games, they almost always seem to deliver. And he's one of the only guys, I mean, Neep as well. I must say, Neep Sero is always super fun to watch. That can really push Sero to the limit in this matchup when it comes to, you know, the foreign scene.
I mean, to speak a little bit to this, I think that's actually one of the... You can look at it as a beautiful thing or a really sad thing. It's not like ShoWTimE's play, at least from what I've seen, I watch a lot of ShoWTimE, is terrible. He's not making like the worst choices. He's not like completely falling on his face. He's obviously not at his ungodly stage where he's just so much better than everybody else. I think the scene's caught up to him, but a lot of it can be mental stuff, but also kind of bad luck that happens in StarCraft. Like, consistently winning and being at the top is one of the hardest things in StarCraft, but I would go as far as to say in all of competitive gaming. Remaining at the top is so hard to do, and especially in these games that are really, really competitive. There are others as well than just StarCraft. It becomes even more impossible is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, we've seen it so often in StarCraft though, right? When you see the rise of a player and it's really fun to follow the journey, and then they finally have their first breakthrough result. You're like, oh my god, are they established now? And it's like, nope, actually they're not, because then the next time it goes wrong again.
Everyone studies them, everyone gears for them, they counter their style. It's amazing.
Ooh, Phoenix flies in. The Oracle might be able to get a couple drones, but that's it. Actually, just a single drone, I believe, got picked off there.
Yep.
Just two.
Just something earlier as
Maybe
well.
the Adept got one of the... Can we find an Adept with a kill? Ha!
Ha!
I think this is the one.
One of those guys. There's a fast prism, though. We've been seeing more of this, too. Going Stargate, limited use out of it. Maybe just a Phoenix and an Oracle, or sometimes two Oracles, and straight into Archon drop. Roddy, you're a super good player. What do you kind of think about this new meta? Newish, by the way. It's not like brand spanking new, but it's kind of a return to an old meta almost.
I think that what ShoWTimE is doing is something that Lambo is going to be quite comfortable with. We know that Lambo has spent a lot of time in Korea, and I feel this is almost like the default PvZ opener. You know, your PvZ starter pack opener on the Korean server. This is kind of it.
So you're trying to win a PvZ.
Yeah. So I can only assume that Lambo has had an insane amount of practice against this, and that he's not going to be too greedy, too stubborn. He went up to 59 drones, which is on the higher echelon of amount of drones I would say you want to have. But if he makes only roaches from this point, I have a hard time imagining that ShoWTimE can get too much done, and it's just a single prism for now. It's not even a double prism, so I think that Lambo should be more than fine here.
You know, it's fun watching this style, though, because it's a little bit of a dance, right? Like, the roaches are what you need to survive this. Hopefully the queens can target the war prism. But that also forces out roaches, and the Protoss typically behind this is getting at least one Robo Immortal to kind of counter those roaches. So it's up to the Zerg to not overcommit to this defense, not lose too much to it.
Oh, that was sick. Did you see that alley-oop in the slam dunk?
Pick up and the Archons dunk on it. I love it.
That's cool.
Or a bicycle kick to be really topical.
So Lambo is making a whole bunch of Overlords at once. Probably going to make a few more drones after he just spent a few more drones on the Spectres and whatnot. But we got that Hydra Den all the way already. I don't know if Lambo wants to play that. Look at this battery. Oh, very safe. ShoWTimE over here, Jeff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Lost will do that to you, I think.
Yeah. I don't know if like just playing a rather defensive Roach Hydra, trying to pick ShoWTimE apart, is going to do it though for Lambo. Because I feel ShoWTimE in general is so good in those slower games where he can really position his army well and he can rely on those side storms that we know he likes to get. Second row actually before storm.
Yeah. Second row, it's a little bit of a stylistic thing. I actually think we saw a lot of this from Puck in the previous broadcast, but the faster storm's kind of cool because it really counters the Hydras, and then if they go too heavy on Ling Baneling, okay there. That being said, that one of the things to kind of keep your eye on is Lambo so far not with a fourth base, and with the third base getting saturated for ShoWTimE, the kind of longer this goes, the more all-in Lambo will find himself in, where it becomes less and less about you can do damage into the territory of you must do a lot of damage.
Yep, his army is big, and that's what it needs to be as well. His +1 missile attacks have now finished up. These Hydras are slow. A couple of Queens are joining in the mix as well. If you guys wonder why would they bring the Queens, I think it's just to deal with that one Oracle, because one Oracle can potentially push out a lot of damage, so it's nice to still have those Queens there. The army is big, but ShoWTimE with shield batteries, Guardian Shield, Force Fields, 3 Immortals, and double Robo. I don't know, Jim.
I'm not that convinced by this army. He's trying to make some Ravage to crush the Force Fields as well. But just a few. Now it's Lings behind this. It is just basically an all-in unless he does a lot of damage to equalize here. If he's going down to the low, he has a good concave. Trying to get some damage against the probes. ShoWTimE wisely pulls it back. As Roddy pointed out, there are Force Fields and shield batteries here, kind of just waffling back and forth. The longer this goes for ShoWTimE, the better it is.
Yeah, especially the batteries with Immortals are just insane. The Queens are going to get picked up there very quickly. One Archon does finally go down. But look at the amount of Immortals. The only way that Lambo can truly take care of it is if he gets right on top of them with Hydras and Zerglings. And there are no Archons now, so ShoWTimE does have to be a little bit careful. But the Ling numbers are simply not really there for Lambo.
Nexus getting low in health. Immortals, RV, and Tar back here, but that Warp Prism with some brilliant micro. A couple of Corrosive Biles do land on the Immortals. The Nexus does end up dying. And I think he's done some okay damage. Get some more Corrosive Biles there. The army will end up dying for Lambo. But supply-wise, you can see he's up 39 supply. He's actually down in workers. Now, Roddy, what I really don't like behind this, if he had a 4th hatch, if he had just thrown a hatch back there, I would say Lambo's okay, but he's really leaning into this. He has to win, I feel.
Yep, he is taking it right now, but you're right. He's not stopping. He hasn't made a drone in the last 4 or 5 minutes. ShoWTimE had a lot of gas. ShoWTimE's army looked really small for a split second. Now with a couple of Archons, it's a little more healthy.
Yeah.
He still has these batteries that are slowly but steady getting some energy back in the mix as well. The only downside of ShoWTimE's army is that it's a clunky army, right? It's not an army that you can really do a lot with. You just kind of have to hope that your opponent takes a bad fight into you, because there isn't too much micro potential in the army of ShoWTimE aggressively, only defensively.
Oh, wow, Lambo's going to go in here. He's going to try to slide into that space again to get a bigger concave. Archon's now going up towards the front. Damage output for both armies is really high, so it's just a bit of a precarious dance. Shield batteries, as Roddy pointed out, now having energy. Oh, a massive AoE hit there, though. The Archon stepped forward, but with the amount of Roaches and Hydras behind it, they actually just kind of melt almost immediately. And Lambo seems to have been breaking through here.
Yeah, suddenly all those Immortals, all the barriers got activated at once, and suddenly all of them started falling one by one. Really good execution on the push by Lambo there in the end.
Depowered the shield batteries. Losing the 3rd a second time is an unforgivable sin. That's going to be it. Lambo finds victory through relentless aggression. Nicely done.
That was a funny little push as well with the way it played out, because obviously you see the numbers, you're like, Lambo's still up 40 army supply. Yes, but he's also, like you said, he's very committed. He's very all in. And even after he got the Nexus, I wasn't totally convinced that that was really going to do it, because that Immortal count was still going up. But then suddenly that one Corrosive Bile hits in the middle, and the beauty about that is that it doesn't just do damage, it's all the barriers that it activates. And then suddenly Hydras are not that bad anymore against Immortals, and it feels like there's a domino effect always with Immortals. It's like, if one goes, they all go. It's like one by one.
It was a couple weird things, and it's one of those things too where, like, when we break it down, and for us kind of casually, you guys sitting in your pajamas or whatever you're doing at home watching, it's very easy to see this, but in the game it's really hard. The force fields being behind the mineral line, as Roddy pointed out when it first went down, but then also to the right of the Nexus, which is not the attack point. So every time ShoWTimE like backed up to their range, he was giving more space to that concave that Lambo very wisely so was establishing. A lot of Zergs would just be like, no, I've got an army, go through there. Spreading out, letting the Roaches buffer, the Ravagers drop their AoE, which connected a lot, by the way. They actually had a lot of hits. And then having the Hydras, like the Hydra count was never in that ridiculous like 30 range, but the 10 or so that he always had were always dealing damage.
Yeah, and it's really hard to pick off those 10 Hydras if you don't have the Zealots at that point. And the Zealots kept getting picked off before that, and the Immortals were doing obviously a really good job against the Roaches. Every single time a Roach like slightly overstepped their boundaries, like bam, it's gone. But the Zealot count was never there. There's always this moment where normally Protoss defense, Guardian Shield, and then suddenly it's like, now we can attack. And then the 8 Zealots swarm in and they slice up the Hydras and nothing dies. But yeah, that never happened. Lambo did a really good job in maintaining at least a solid unit core count.
Yeah, and again, just kind of in retrospect, and I'm not trying to ShoWTimE did the best he could, but I would say it would be an interesting choice as well to grab the initial Zealots and be like, okay, he's got a lot of Roaches, these guys do nothing. Grab them and throw them to a counterattack up towards the 3rd base. You also lose by counterattacking from time to time, so it's not going to be clear whether or not that would be a winning or losing decision, but it'd be interesting, a little bit different. But Regardless, here we go into game number 2 in this best of 3 for the subhuman. I'm going to stop making that joke. The loser match, if you will. ShoWTimE is on the brink of being eliminated very quickly and pretty clearly, I would say. Like his match against Seoul was rough as well.
I don't know how many seasons of Challenger we had, but I highly doubt that ShoWTimE ever went 0-4. I cannot imagine. At least not ever since he truly established himself as one of the best in Europe. Let's see if he can prevent that Doom scenario spawning on the left top side of, yes, it is indeed Redshift. It is a ShoWTimE. Interesting second map over here, Jeff.
I like it. It gets a little bit spicy. And ShoWTimE's aggressor taking that first game in the lower left-hand side, also from Germany. It's the Red Zerg Lambo. Julian Brosig.
It's got a cool last name.
These guys all have cool last names.
Brosig, I like it.
Oh my gerb.
So, one of the reasons why we said it is indeed Redshift is because this is a map that's not super common. We'll see it every now and then. It's definitely not like as crazy as a Paladino Terminal or something that literally always got vetoed. But this map is not the most popular in the current map pool because it just plays out kind of weird, a little bit different with these gold bases that also are very vulnerable from the other side. Now Lambo is taking his gold. In general, Jeff, I really feel that the gold is a trap. You shouldn't take it. Maybe as your 5th, you know, by then it's okay if you have a couple of High Templars with Storm available. Going straight for the gold seems a little bit risky, but I'm sure that Lambo knows what he's doing, and I'm sure that he has done it before.
Well, as you said, I mean, pro gamers just, they typically like predictability, they like consistency, they like to just kind of go in and not let so much RNG decide what's happening. So anytime you have a map like this where it's, you know, they're both on the left side, that's fixed, right? Which gives kind of this weird lopsided effect to the rest of the map. And then as Roddy said, the gold bases, it just kind of adds a bunch of factors in that get a little bit different. Not every map has gold bases, and certainly I would say no other map has fixed spawning locations as lopsided as this. So I like it though. I like when it's both in the map pool and it's a good enough map that it's pickable, but then I also like it when pro gamers are like, you know what? Let's get a little freaky. Let's do it.
So I'm expecting ShoWTimE to obviously open up here with the Stargate again. That's something EA pretty much always does. But against the gold, I mean, yeah, there's just a lot of rushes that are going to hit even faster and harder than they normally do. And the Stargate is just going to keep him safe.
He's going to park the Adept behind it, I would think, right?
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, he has a probe.
But is he so robotic? No, it's heading over there. It's gotta be. It's gotta be.
It makes perfect sense, and it's kind of annoying for Lambo to deal with.
Oh,
he's already what?
But you can still kill, like, so the Queen's DPS. What? Oh, is he gonna shove it over?
Oh, he's gonna do the
oh my god!
That is pretty amazing. All right.
What's funny about this though? The Queen's DPS is so low again.
Still,
good pullback there though.
I mean, it's a really good
Queen
move.
on the other side.
Yeah. And you can start spreading creep forward. The only downside is though that Lambo cannot be too caught up with this because he still has to worry about the usual threats that are obviously these oracles.
Right.
I would actually love a double oracle game coming out of ShoWTimE here because I have the feeling this game is always going to get hectic, especially with gold bases as well. It's going to be drones bouncing around from base to base all over the place. So I think double oracle would make a lot of sense here.
It would, but that, you know what's scary about that, Roddy, too, is that pushes the game into kind of that all-in-ish territory. So we do see ShoWTimE going with the Phoenix, and I feel like that is his comfort zone. One of the Protoss kind of credos is if your opponent, namely a Zerg, takes the gold, you have to kind of not freak out about it. You cannot bail out of your strategy entirely and just be like, I have to kill him, because it's the Zerg that's pulling in the dough right now. And more often than not, those gold bases are exposed, so it can kind of act like a carrot for the Protoss to go after it, but it can also turn into the stick pretty quick, Roddy.
No, that's right. I mean, I think we've all been there in the past. It's like, he's got the gold, 8 gates.
So we gotta go now.
Yeah, we gotta go now. And it's like, man, they've got so many units. It's like, yeah, that's what the gold
does. A lot of roaches, actually. You know, I don't mind that, but it's when the Hydras show up that you're like, come on! Really?
That too?
I just finished Warp Gate, you got Hydras? And then the Zerg's like, yeah, I know, golds are silly, aren't they? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. Take that win, bruh.
That's gonna be creep into the main base of ShoWTimE, by the way.
I love it. That Queen. I mean, that's a traditional StarCraft thing, right? Like, there's gonna be purists that look at that and will go, that's not how it was intended to be. A Queen just hopping over minerals. No, but it's been a part of StarCraft since the beginning of time. And I think as long as it doesn't like super break the game, I'm all for it, man.
Well, when this map came out, like, I kind of, when you look at the middle line, I expected the probe to go through. Like, that was no rocket science to me.
Something weird's happening here.
But the queen is like, okay, like...
Woo! Lifts her skirt and steps over like, don't mind if I do. Coming over.
I did not expect queens to be able to hop to the other side.
Look what had to happen, though. You had to build an evolution chamber behind it to squeeze it up against the minerals, lay a creep tumor.
And then it goes like, woo!
And you have to click past that, by the way, for the viewing audience. It's not just as simple as it just happens. You have to spam click beyond after the action. It's kind of hard.
All right, Oracle from the fly to the other side of the map.
Oh, no drones.
It's just a Roach, Ling, Queen, Ravager.
Yeah. I'd throw a Dark Shrine down right now, by the way, but that's just me, and I kind of always throw a Dark Shrine down.
It would be great. I think with the extra shield batteries and the defensive stasis, things look all right for ShoWTimE, but Lambo's army is going to be big.
The Ravagers, right?
What I would like to see...
come out. He has to come out of there.
I'd like to see him rebuild his Cybercore very quickly, because it's very likely you're going to lose your Cybercore. It's one of the first buildings that go down. I mean, he is going to warp in a lot of Zealots, because he does have charge.
This is a dead ShoWTimE, man.
You think it's over?
He went back in there, and he kind of had to, just situationally. But with the Queens, the Lings, and the number of Ravagers back here, he has to take a fight.
There's force fields, though. Force fields, Immortals, and batteries. I think ShoWTimE can do it.
I like it. I like
believe
your optimism. Let's believe.
Let's do it.
Hold my hand. They can't see it
Together. I always hold your hand, Jeff.
That's true. We cast holding hands together. And here we go. The force fields need to go down. They need to be good. Ravagers, Roasted Pile not preemptively going down on the force fields. There come the Lings. They don't have a good angle, though. It's a narrowed space. But the Corrosive Vials nailing pretty good AoE back there.
The Oracle is still alive as well, obviously staying out of range of these Queens for now. Another Immortal pops, but it gets surrounded immediately by these Zerglings.
The Corrosive Vial! He walked into it. Nails the force again. These pylons getting targeted, by the way, and that's a Robo on the right side, Roddy.
Yeah, 3 extra gateways are warping him. I feel like it took a little too long. There is not enough reinforcements at this point, I think, for ShoWTimE. Jeff, can I take my statement back?
Yeah, you can.
I still believe. No, I don't.
No. Lambo's in here. The force fields will not save you for now. The Oracle doing what it can. This is tough. There's the ups and downs of StarCraft 2. You are watching a downer right now. ShoWTimE, one of the absolute best non-Koreans.
The gateways are finally done though, Jeff. But yeah, there's no life anymore on the Immortals and all the probes have gone down. It's such a shame. If you would have had those gates a tiny bit quicker, you can just wipe in a couple of Zealots in the mix every now and then. That could have made the difference. Damn, ShoWTimE going 0-4 in WCS EU Challenger.
And easily, Roddy. Like all 4 of the games were pretty harsh. There it is. He's going to tap out. Lambo completes the destruction and will advance to the decider match to be played after our upcoming winning match. But let's talk a little bit about ShoWTimE here for a second, Roddy. Now, as a top-tier professional player in Germany, we can still expect to probably see him in that open bracket. But 2 WCSs in a row now, he's had a rough go at it.
Yeah, I think the previous WCS Challenger season wasn't too bad. He made it into the quarterfinals, so that's top 8 in Europe technically, because you obviously have to qualify in the first place through the ladder. I think top 8 in Europe, that's always solid. He had a rough series back then against ShoWTimE, but ShoWTimE's a tricky Terran player, and we know that this matchup can be kind of his Achilles heel. But yeah, the way that Lambo just took care of him, obviously massive kudos to Lambo for not being this one-hit wonder that he was at Austin, but already carrying this on, qualifying for Challenger in the first place, now also taking out ShoWTimE. I'm kind of shocked. These are not regular PvZ games that I see very often of a player like ShoWTimE.
No, he's known for his defense, and so far that's been kind of his undoing. But that's in the past. We'll have to see what ShoWTimE's story does do for us in the future. We're going to move on to this next match. As we can see here, the results of Group C. Coming up, we'll have Seoul versus Bly, the unlikely winner match.
I remember a game between these two. I think it was played in Nation Wars. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was the most recent season of Nation Wars. It was on Eastwatch. It was a game where Bly was like 99% dead after a failed, I think, an early game Nidus. But then he just kept Nidusing, and he kept Nidusing. And every time Seoul moved out, there was another Nidus, another Nidus. And eventually it was Nidus with Ultralisk. And guess what? Bly won the game.
Well, we're going to have to see if more are coming our way as we take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back.